Manyoko son oui ya son na namu Ki akpani ba to we to money o ya do mo si awie ya o Amo manyoko son oui ya son den be mu o ya Ki akpani ba to we to money o ya do mo si awie ya o Ki an se pa yanju o ki se pa yanju o Sapayanju ka o ma si apayanju o so si olele ya si olele o ya si olele lele o ya si olele yo si olele amon manyo ko so wi ya son dan be mu Ki akpani ba to we to money o abiyan mi do mo si awie ya o Ki an se payan jiju o mama Ki an se payan jiju o re son ke wo ki an ya ki an se payan ju o Ki an ya uri money mo re to le se ma bembe son bi Ki an ya uri manyo e abatoni Passion même oh Kia we money More to ma même pio abinyobe
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jah.
Gentlemen, and welcome to yet another edition of Tough Talking Thursday on Focus on Liberia. My name is Dennis Jah, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. In tonight's edition of Tough Talking Thursday, we are glad to be in the presence of the presidential candidate as the standard bearer of the Liberia Restoration Party, Mr. Allen Brown Jr., who is going to be talking to him on his plan for Liberia and his chances for a victory come October 10, 2023. That's election day. We want to welcome all of you across the globe, and Mr. Brown, the standard bearer, we say welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you. Thank you, Dennis.
We are so happy to have you. Let me also welcome our Governor's Advisor, that's FOL Governor's Advisor, Mr. Adme K. Salif. Mr. Salif, welcome to the show.
It's always a pleasure, Dennis. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you. Let me welcome Dr. Douglas, the man who has under his belt working with presidents in the past. Dr. Duke and running campaigns. Welcome to the show. Dr. Duke, I hope you're not freezing. Let me also welcome all our viewers from across the globe.
Frozen, not me.
Go ahead, Dad. Go ahead, Dad.
Are you freeze? Are you cutting off? I'm okay. Can you hear me?
Yes,
sir.
Can
you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
We can hear you, all right, Dr.
Yeah, but it's your system. I'm not sure what it is, but I'm okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. We want to welcome all our viewers from across the globe. If you have not done so already, please share the show invite someone and let's talk to the presidential candidate of the Liberia Restoration Party. So let me start by welcoming you. This is your first time. We are glad to have you, Mr. Brown.
Thank
how
you.
are you doing?
I'm well, thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Great. Let me start by saying I follow you and know you as a businessman. So when I saw your name, I said, and let me also tell our audience that Mr. Brown is number 3 on the ticket on the list. So if you see him, number 3 is Allen R. Brown Jr., the Vice President, Roosevelt J. Weah, and they are running on LRP, that's the Liberia Restoration Party. Mr. Brown, just a little bit, apart from your business background, what are you doing here?
All right, so I will start by telling you about myself. I was born in Bummy Hills, July 24th, 1961. I went to school on the I went to school on the old road. I grew up on the old road in St. Clair. I went to ACS. I graduated in 1979. I went to college abroad, St. Joseph's University. I graduated from there with a degree in accounting when I was 20. I've been in and out of Liberia since. I worked in Ivory Coast, in Cameroon, in Togo, and of course in Liberia. And I've worked in the insurance industry, hospitality, and real estate. In 2004, I returned to Liberia and opened a chain of hotels, and real estate as well. I've always had an interest in helping others, and I still have that interest. I'm currently very involved in real estate and philanthropy.
Thank you. So what got you interested in running for president?
Well, I've always helped people. I mean, I'm on this earth to honor God and honor man. So I think it's a natural evolution for someone like me. I see a need, and I believe that I can make a difference in the lives of others. I didn't see anybody particularly addressing the issues that I found concerning, so I decided to get involved.
Any particular background or in public service that you are drawing on?
I've been in the private sector my entire life. So I've never worked in government, never been in on any board of a public entity, nothing like that. I come strictly from the private sector.
And how you think that experience is relevant in solving?
I mean, I think it's very relevant, especially when it comes to the economy, because in the private sector, you have to source funds and what have you privately. I think I bring a very, very different perspective to the political arena.
And what are some of those issues that you said nobody is addressing? What specifically about Liberia you want to...
So I'm with the Liberia Restoration Party, and we are a faith-based party to restore the nation to God. We're the only party in the race that has the restoration of God on our platform, that even talking about God. Now, I want to be clear that as much as we talk about God, we are inclusive. So as long as you believe in God and desire to join us, we are very predisposed to you joining us. So that's the first area. The second area is that my politics is I'm about empowerment of our people. But I start my empowerment with children. And when I talk about children, not only the children that are on this earth with us today, but I'm talking about unborn generations to come. I believe that they should be, that children should be children again, that they should be brought up in an environment of love, of innocence when they ought to be innocent, integrity, responsibility, and discipline. When we bring children up the way they should, when they're older, they won't depart from it. And broken children become broken adults, and broken adults create a broken society. Conversely, productive kids become productive adults and contribute to a productive society. I believe that our human resource capacity is our greatest asset as a nation. I believe that we are unique, particularly because we focus on that human resource capacity, and we're not into creating talking about the minerals as our greatest asset, even though we do have some wonderful natural resources. But we talk about our human capacity, and we are very focused on building that human capacity. So we talk about the youth, and the youth are clearly the future. Building them academically for those who want the education, but really building them so that they're able to pursue their passion and their interest. So if they're interested in athletics, well, we want to build them in athletics. If it's music or art or whatever area that they're interested in, our thing is to encourage them and to make sure that they're able to earn a living doing something that they love. We do know that as long as they are doing something that they love, that they will enjoy it, and the country will benefit from it. With respect to education, I'm on record to say that we want an educational system that is culturally sensitive, and I use an example of that. When our children are learning to read, ideally they should hear something like Flomo and Tufa were playing Blade in the rain, and as opposed to hearing Dick and Jane playing in the snow. And the idea behind that is to make sure that they are reading things that are relatable to them, right, which will help them with their own identity. It will create an appreciation for the culture. And that, I believe, is very, very important. I believe that children, when they have an appreciation for their culture, and a strong sense of nationalism, that they tend to contribute, that they'll be inclined to contribute to their nation. And this is not to say that we shouldn't appreciate other cultures. We should absolutely, but there's a uniqueness about us that we should appreciate. With respect to education, given where we are in the world, this is a technological world. So our education should be geared towards technology. There are more microprocessors in computer chips than there are grains of rice harvested on an annual basis. That tells you the kind of opportunity and demand for technology. And the big companies, as you well know, they're looking for tech savvy people. If our greatest resource is developed to where we create tech savvy people, well then of course we will have an enormous amount of interest, global interest, in our youth and our people, and that can only boost our economy. With respect to healthcare, I I don't believe that Liberians should have to go anywhere to seek medical attention. I believe that we should operate our hospitals with right in Liberia. And we can do that by starting with the resources that we have. There are way back in the early 2000s, there were 3,000 medical doctors in the United States alone. I believe that they have a torch for Liberia. I believe that that we could come up with a program that will allow them to come in. So say, for instance, JFK, and I'm just using JFK as an example. If JFK was the state of the art, which we would do, and we have medical doctors who are Liberians and carry a torch for our country, so we'll get them to come in discounted. We have some fine and awesome doctors on the ground. Based on the technology, they would be able to consult with the doctors on the ground and help them, show them that. And the doctors on the ground, of course, there are things that are unique to the ground, who would be able to consult and help the doctors who are coming. What we don't want is some sort of schism between the doctors coming and the doctors on the ground, because the objective is to treat our people. But yes, that has to do with healthcare, and rather than me having this dialogue completely, let me just let me hear from you too. Let me give you some time to ask me other questions.
Right. Let me get the clarification. You said you want to bring the nation back to God. So
Yes.
I don't know when at what point the nation departed from God, and which God are you talking about? Is it the God of the Bible,
fine.
the God of the Quran?
That's what we're very careful about. Okay, we're very careful when you talk about God, because right away you will start to get people who will say, "Oh, you're talking as a Christian, or you're talking as a Muslim, or you're talking from another religion." And I've been very clear about it. We are inclusive. All we're saying is that if you believe in God, that means that, and you desire to join us, that's your option.
What if you don't?
Let me hang on.
Okay.
And you desire to join us, then we are very predisposed to you, and we look forward to it. We with respect to the Bible is very clear. It says, if the Lord does not build the house, the builders labor in vain. So what the interpretation of that is, sure, you have all the expertise, sure, you have all the money, sure, you have all the cooperation, etc. But if God is not in it, it's almost like a waste of time. Now you ask me, oh, you come from a private sector setting, and you've had no public sector experience. How does this work? And my position is that I think that it works very well. I think that given that we have problems in Liberia, and that we've had leaders with all sorts of experience, that we still have these problems. I don't know that the issue of whether you come from the public sector or whether you come from the private sector is as monumental as some people may want it to be. One of the things that motivated me to want to run for president had to do with a simple thing like feeding the people. So many people in Liberia, they wake up in the morning, they don't know where they will get their first meal from. They wake up in the morning hungry, they go to bed hungry. I'm part of a feeding ministry. We fed over 100,000 Liberians. We normally, it's called Feeding Peter Kids, is with the incoming senator for Bong, Pinky Bima, an extraordinary woman who has a lot to offer Bong County, and I believe that she will be the next senator of Bong County. But here's the thing: we started feeding the kids, right? Then we found out that the adults, the parents, were hungry as well. And even though we fed 100,000, it's just scratched the surface of a much greater demand. So there are all kinds of issues that need to be addressed in Liberia today.
Thank you. So before I turn it over to Mr. Sharif, let me ask you my final question here is, based on the needs that you talk about, what would be the first 3 things you would tackle in your first 100 days?
Feeding the people. Feeding the people is the number one thing that I'm going to tackle. And the reason for that is that, your people are not really going to listen to you when they're hungry. And when somebody is hungry, that person is compromised. So, we've seen a nation that had a depression and fed its people, and that's the United States of America during the Great Depression. They did that. So it's not something that's unheard of, and it's not something that governments don't do. The second thing, of course, would be providing jobs, because obviously, once somebody is fed, then you have to start looking at jobs, job creation, to give them something to do. And yes, I would be very focused on that. Now, the third thing immediately, and this is a problem that people don't really talk about, but being on the ground in Liberia, I can talk about it. And that is the drug problem. It's a pandemic. It's a bigger problem than Ebola and COVID combined. That's how serious it is. And so it has to be urgently addressed so that it doesn't become apocalyptic.
Thank you. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, you were listening to Mr. Allen R. Brown Jr. He's the presidential candidate for the Liberian Restoration Party. Let me bring in Mr. Adme K. Salif, our governance consultant. Mr. Salif.
Thank you, Dennis. Mr. Brown, thank you for coming on. It's a pleasure to be here with you. Typically I ask people a simple question. Why do you seek this office? 1, 2, what will you do with it? Just listening to you, I as someone who is trained in social sciences and stuff, all kinds of things are going through my head. And like, are you advocating for example, a socialist state, some kind of public?
Far from it.
Please. I know you say far from. Let me just finish your point, and I'll let you know why I'm thinking that. Right. Okay. So I see a candidate who is looking at a plethora of problems that the country faces, and the candidate says one of the first 3 things I would do is to feed my people, because hungry people don't listen to you. I'm not for hungry people or hungry population. I'm for a happy society, a prosperous society. But it's not the job of the president, the chief executive, to feed the people, or of an administration, even for that matter, to feed the people. My question, I say that because if a government, an administration, a president, a chief executive leads a team that it creates an environment where a wholesome society arises, where the president inspires the people. Earlier on you started with the economics, and so economic environment, people are prosperous, you have jobs, things are happening, you're building the nation, your factories and things like that, agriculture, whatever it is, people are working, they're earning income, they're feeding themselves, they're sending their kids to school. You are working on social economic issues. That's what I'm hearing you say. But when you drill down to I'll feed the people, I'll do this, so it makes me wonder as to what kind of. So you really threw me off. I have to say that wasn't my first question, but when you went there, it threw me off. Let me just put it out there. My question is, what is your path to victory? Because no one who has ambition, who wants to do something, gets to do it unless they're elected in that office. So what is it? Can you construct the path to victory for us?
All right. So the first thing I have to say to you respectfully, Mr. Sirleaf, is I happen to disagree with you about the issue of feeding the people. I absolutely believe that it is the job of the leader to make sure that the citizens are fed, whether it's direct, and it becomes even more important that that leader feeds the people. When you have hungry people, it's the job of the leader to protect the citizens in whatever way you have to. So now, like you say, you're the political scientist. I may not be that. However, I do know that if I'm a hungry person and I'm existing in where there's a leader, I want that leader to find ways for me to eat. So we already disagree. So let me be clear there, and I'm saying my disagreement with is respectful, and that's what we're here for. When you talk about my path to victory, the first thing I'm interested in doing, I'm not going to give you my entire strategy, but I will tell you this. It's about making the people aware that there is somebody interested in their problems and that identifies with their problems. And then it's about explaining my platform. So let me get into my platform for you for a minute. Number one, part of my platform, the first thing I'm interested in doing is feeding our people. It has to be done. The second thing that I'm interested in doing is making sure that, and I call it my IPP, is my investment property proposal. It's forward thinking, it's far reaching, but making sure that the Liberian people have an opportunity to become middle income people. And how do I plan to do that? Now, if you look at Singapore and even Libya, they had the policy where they put people in homes. The problem that we're having is that we are lagging so far behind that it's not enough just to say, okay, we're going to have a policy that's going to put people in homes. It won't work for us. So we can't play catch up. That means that we have to play let's get ahead. So I have what I call it an investment property proposal. What I plan to do is to make our people landlords. What that means is that they will have a ground floor, will be built with the ability for a ground floor and go 4 floors up. The ground floor, they will live. The first floor is where they will rent out, whether it's an Airbnb or whatever it is, and it will be managed by a management company to pay the bills. Now that property can go up 3 floors. What does that do for them? That moves them completely to a whole different economic bracket, they and their children. People in the diaspora, such as you, Mr. Sirleaf, will have a pathway to come home, assuming you even want to come home. But that pathway will be there for those people who want to come home, because the qualification for getting this property would be that you are Liberian. Now, if you go throughout the length and breadth of Liberia, you'll find that we have available land all over the place. So I'm talking about creating clusters of opportunities. That's my platform. The second thing that I'm looking at is that I would take 50. There's a company that I know, I've dealt with them before. They're into business development and source financing. So I would take 50, and this is a policy, by the way. I would take 50 young people from each county. So we're talking about 750 young people. What I would do with them, we will put them in the business training program. When they're finished with it, we source them, capitalize them, monitor, make sure that they are monitored, and we allow them to go in all the various sectors in our economy and let them set that economy ablaze. I wouldn't stop there. Another policy that I have, I would take 100 from each county. So you're talking about 1,500. And I will put them in, excuse me, and I will put them in a public sector training program. Allow them to rotate through all the ministries, the bureaus, the agencies, the counties for 30 months. And then we strategically place them in 3 different areas, in 3 different branches of government, and allow them to make their mark. Now, these policies are things that you haven't heard before because, and the reason that is there, the reason I thought about it is because there has to be a transformation in the way we think. And I do not believe that conventionally that it will solve our problem. It won't. We've got to think out of the box, and we have to create new ways for doing things. And when we do that, we will transform Liberia.
Thank you.
So my thing is this, to let people know these are my policies. This is what I stand for. This is what I believe. I believe that someone like you, assuming, even if you have property in Liberia, but if you know that there's a pathway for you to come into your country and own an investment property where you have a place to live, where the bills are paid, and then you can go up 3 floors, of which when you invest, if you choose to, that you would be able to turn that money over. I believe it becomes very interesting to you. I believe that we need the people in the diaspora to come back to Liberia. I believe that my investment property proposal, what it does, that program, it makes people independent of government. Because at that point, once you have that property, it doesn't matter who is in power. You have your property, you have your investment. You're welcome to do whatever it is that you want to, as long as you're law abiding. So let's talk about then that brings me to how will I deal with the rule of law. I'm on record to say that I would appoint competent judges who understand and are knowledgeable about the subject matter of the law. Then I would appoint judges who have character, that's their personal integrity. Then I will appoint judges who have compassion for others. I will not interfere with the judiciary. I won't call them to throw a case. And all I will do is what I can do constitutionally as the executive to strengthen the judiciary. When you ask me my path of victory is to explain a very unique platform, a platform that Liberian people haven't heard before, a platform that maybe the world even hasn't heard in some respects. So thank you, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Salif, if you have any follow-up.
Yeah, then I would just, and those are all beautiful programs. We didn't disagree that I'm not against the people doing well. But my thing is the government has a role and in creating and doing certain things that then imbues and infuses the society in such a way that the society is prosperous. Therefore, the people are prosperous, and the people then are independent. They do things the way they want to do, what kind of feeding they want to feed, how they want to eat, and all of that. So, and the path to victory you talk about. Look, anyone runs for office, they have stories, they have, the strategy to explain things. But when I ask you, I'm thinking realistically, if you look at numbers that will get you in office, what is the path? But I take what you give me. That's fine. You say you won't tell me your strategy, and that's fine. I'll stop there, Dennis.
Thank you.
Mr. Salif, you're a gentleman. Thank you.
Dr. Duke.
Yes, Alan Brown, how are you doing, sir?
Yes, sir. Abdullah. So long, my man. How you been?
I was so surprised when I saw your name on the. I said, okay.
And you can
something
imagine
happened.
how many people were so surprised.
But I want to ask you a question though. I think when you decide to run for president, you decide to run for office, you assess the field, right? You look at the field and say, okay, who's out there? And now you have George Weah, you have the incumbent, you have Buckeye, who was second in line when and then you have Chairman Gonglo that is coming up. What do you think about these people? I wanted to get, what do you think about
Okay,
it?
so thanks. Okay, so again, let me talk to you something about about my politics. So I'm a neutralist in terms of my politics. I'm not here to criticize the current administration, His Excellency President George Weah. I'm not here to criticize the administrations previous to this administration. I'm not here to criticize my fellow presidential aspirants. I'm here to present my platform.
You're here to beat them.
Give the Liberian people an option, another option. Someone asked me a similar question, and they say, "Well, who do you see as your major rival?" As far as I'm concerned, every single candidate is my major rival. I don't see them any differently. I respect all of them, and I'm only concerned about presenting my platform to the Liberian people and giving them an option, and that's where I am.
Okay, when you talk about restoration of God, I think that will worry a lot of people. I mean, God is so indefinable. I mean, you cannot define God, from one person to another one. And we are talking about a republic that says we are going to be secular. We are not going to mix God and religion into our politics. Mm-hmm. And you are taking us back to those ideas where you say, okay, if you don't believe in God, you're not part of us. Suppose you find out that 30-40% of Liberians are not don't believe in God at all. You put them out; they'll be out of your system.
Okay, so let me give you some clarity. When you come to governing as president, it doesn't matter whether somebody believes in God or not. They have constitutional rights, and I will do everything to protect their constitutional rights, and they will be given every opportunity that anybody else would be given. So I want to be clear about that. With respect to God, here's the thing. I'm not going to say or do anything for this job. I am presenting my platform. It's a platform where there are many options. I'm just one option. I'm not trying to be what I'm not. I'm not trying to say something that I don't believe. I'm just presenting my platform to the Liberian people and say, this is what I believe in. This is my platform. It doesn't stop you from voting for somebody else. You may say, okay, Alan Brown, I don't appreciate your platform. I think you're talking nonsense. I think it's impossible, etc. And, you know, that's fine. My position will be whatever it is that you think. I am supportive of a democracy. Whether you vote for me or you don't vote for me, if I should come into power, I will fight to give you the right to say, Alan Brown, I care less about you, because that is what democracy is all about. And what I would say to you is that I'm an option. I'm an option out there. Compare my platform to everybody else's platform, and you can make a determination. If you find somebody that's more, or that identifies more with improving the lives of children, if you find somebody else that's going to do more for you individually in terms of an investment property, if you find more about somebody who's going to do more for the economy in terms of showing specifically how they will grow the economy, if you find somebody who's going to be more about what they would do for the public sector in terms of how they would change the thinking, well, then of course you go with that person, or whatever your own inclination is. You have that right. This is what the democracy is. As I have the right to be a candidate today, you know, there's nothing that says, oh, you know something, because you don't have public service experience, so therefore you can't be a candidate. I'm allowed to. So it's the same thing on the other side, the flip side. And at the end of the day, we believe in inclusion. The choice before us today is inclusion and coexistence, or exclusion and non-existence. That's the choice before us today if we want to build a nation. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go to Mr. Gonglo. Mr. Gonglo, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready. Mr. Brown, how you doing?
Yeah, Tiwan.
This is not Tiwan.
Oh, wait a minute. Let me get my glasses.
Tiawan is Kalebo, Tiawan's brother.
It's Kalebo.
Well, y'all look alike. No, man. I just saw your brother the other day. Okay.
Good to see you. I'm quite excited that you are running. I'm always excited for all Liberians to run, because for generations, we didn't have such opportunity. It was limited to just few select people. Now, I'm quite excited to even see villagers contend for the presidency. I didn't
hear you.
I say I'm quite excited to see you run for the highest office of the land.
Okay.
And I'm also always...
He's frozen.
I'm not getting him.
Right.
He's frozen.
So, Mr. Brown, to be a president or to run, you are competing against 19 other persons. You have to beat them, or you have to present something better. In what way or ways are you better than the president, Mr. Boakai, Mr. Cummings, or Councillor Gonglo? I'm just giving you a few.
Well, you've heard my policies, and I would like to say different.
Right.
Okay. I'm different because of the policies that I bring to the table.
Everybody is different, but you should be better.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Okay. I kind of look at it like first among equals. Okay. I don't, it's different wording.
Yeah, I got you.
My platform is different because I'm talking about an investment property for you, Mr. Dennis, right here, that you will have a pathway to come back to Liberia if you choose to. It's a choice that you can make, but at least you know that, geez, as a Liberian, I have the opportunity to return to Liberia, and I have a starting point.
Good.
So there is something different,
Different.
and
Okay.
that is what directly affects each and every one of you, Mr. Sirleaf, my friend Abdullah Gonglo. I'm saying to you, this is a pathway. If it so interests you, there is not a single candidate that can say the same thing to you. I have made another platform where I'm talking about how I'm going to transform the economy, bringing 50 people from each county, training them, sourcing the finance through a particular company that this is what they do, and then letting them go into all different sectors of the economy. And I can assure you that they will set the economy ablaze in an unprecedented way. But then in the public sector, which Mr. Sirleaf speaks about, I'm saying I won't leave it there. I'm going to prepare people, 100 of them. That's 1,500. They will be training every single ministry, agency, a bureau, county. For 30 months, they'll be going all through this. And then we're going to allow them to go strategically into all areas of government. When you deal with the private sector, then you deal with the public sector. You're talking about phenomenal change, monumental change. You see, the thing is this, and where I'm the most different, I'll talk about my leadership. I will lead with love and compassion. I will lead with forgiveness. I will lead with inclusion. But here is where I believe I'm most different. I am most different because I will lead with a lot of creativity and innovation. And the policies that you see, those policies are an example of the creative dimension that will make a difference in Liberia and improve lives. It's the creative dimension that is making me say, okay, an investment property program is what I'm going to do for you. Because what it does is that it directly impacts your lives. And that's precisely what I want to do for each Liberian family. At that point, the change becomes tangible. So it's not, it moves from that conceptual stage to where it's really tangible. You can touch it and feel it, because my desire is to touch the lives of each and every Liberian.
Thank you. I think Mr. Gonglo, I think your connection is better now.
Yes, Mr. Brown, are you getting me?
Yes, I can hear you clearly.
Right,
Sorry.
So let me repeat myself.
Yeah.
I was saying I'm quite excited to see you run, and not just you in particular, but in a Liberian for that matter.
Okay.
And I was trying to extend my thought by saying I'm one of those who even believe that in terms of restriction, conditionality on qualification for presidential candidates and legislative candidates should even be removed. Let the voter decide. Maybe we can keep the age limit, but hey, if someone is even 17 years and the people can elect the person, let the person run as a representative. So I'm for that kind of thinking, okay? But that said, I will start my question in this way. There was one Adam Brown in 2006, during the early days of the Elden administration, who was involved in some rice deal, some monopoly on importation that Ellen Johnson started to tour at the early day. Are you the Allen Brown?
No, sir, I'm not. There are two Allen Browns. Okay. There's Allen Brown Sr. and there's Allen Brown Jr. My name is Allen Brown Jr.
Okay,
I've never been involved in any rice business.
Okay, I wanted to clear that out because I wanted to know. I got all the information on that Allen Brown, so I wanted to know.
But if you have all the information on that Allen Brown, then you should have known that it was Allen Brown Sr. and not Allen Brown Jr. But that's okay.
I mean, we can look at. I'll leave it at that. Okay, so then the other thing I like to say, there are so many problems in Liberia. Before the war, after the war, during the war, and after the war, even 12 years of Ellen Johnson study administration, she did not solve all the problems. In fact, as a matter of fact, she helped to create some of the problems. The bribing the legislature and all that, became a policy of the Unity Party government to give cateau, brown envelope to the legislature in order to pass, to basically perform their legislative duties. So my question to you is, beyond Weah, if you take over from Weah, what do you consider the most important problem that should be tackled immediately if you win the election?
I was asked this question already, and I said that I'm part of a feeding ministry. We have people, and the vast majority, who wake up in the morning, they don't know how they're getting their first meal. They go to bed at night hungry. They wake up in the morning hungry. The number one problem to tackle is feeding our people.
All right. So, Mr. Brown, if I may follow up on this answer, why you think there are too many hungry people in Liberia, given the fact that government spends so much money? Why you think there are so many hungry people in Liberia still?
I think it's a lack of opportunities, and I think it's a depressed economy.
Wow.
So why don't you create the opportunities and let the economy grow so the people will feed themselves?
I will create the opportunities. I will let the economy grow, but I have to feed them nonetheless.
How are you going to do it? Cook food for them?
The same way that the United States of America did it during the Depression. You have to set up centers. And yes, you're feeding them. You're actually cooking and feeding them because you have to do that.
Thank you.
Okay,
and that's a good, Dennis, that's a very good question because it's practical.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Mr. Brown, I'm going to still follow on Dennis, if I may. I want to follow on this. There are others who believe that under the Sali administration, under the Doe administration, under the Taylor, maybe I should say, let me leave Mr. Taylor out, but under Doe, he has the Green Revolution, under Sali, investment in agriculture investment, and under Weah and what have you in peacetime. The reason why you still have hungry and we are food insecure is because of corruption in public sector. What do you say about that? Do you agree with them?
Okay, so let me explain to you something about corruption, and corruption is systemic. So there are particular things that would have to be done. The first thing that I would do, and I explained that, I would appoint judges that are competent. That means that they understand the subject matter of the law. And when they understand the subject matter of the law, what do we know? We know that if they make a mistake, it won't be because they didn't know what they were doing. So that should minimize the mistake. Then the second area now is character. That's personal integrity. I will appoint judges that have character and personal integrity. Now, look, what you gain from money, you sell for money. But what you gain by conviction, it's difficult to go against your conviction. Then I will appoint judges that have compassion in their hearts for others. So if you have a felon that is demonstrably contrite, that's a pathway for some sort of clemency or mercy, if you will. Now, I'm not saying that their justice will not be served. I'm not compromising justice. But the law does allow for clemency. The next thing, as the president, I am not going to interfere with the judiciary to say, hey, I need you to do me this favor or do me that favor or anything of that nature. Now, you see, and Mr. Gonglo, I want you to understand something. I will lead by example. People listen to what you say, but they follow what you do. So as a leader, if you are giving substance to what you say by the example that you set, people will follow your example. Now, I am on record to say and I would be remiss if I did not say it here. I am not here to criticize the current government, His Excellency President Weah, or any administration previous to this administration, inclusive of Her Excellency Madam Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, or others who have come before. I am here to present what I believe are solutions to the existing problems and transform our country through example, through policies. That's what I'm about.
Okay, so Mr. Brown, the reason I asked you the question, the way you said the most important thing you like to tackle is to have feeling centers around the country, right? Like
no,
what?
I said the most important thing was to feed the people.
To feed
I
them.
said the way I would do it is that you have to have feeding centers.
Of
Go
course.
ahead.
It's the same thing I said. So now, because the reason I follow up with that corruption question is, if corruption is identified as the main thing that undermines agricultural development, that takes away investment in agriculture, then why don't fight corruption? And the whole thing, it's like you'll be lifting the cap on our on top energy, and we
perhaps you've misunderstood me, Mr. Gonglo. I have said categorically that I will appoint judges who are competent, who have character, that's their personal integrity, and who have compassion for others. I believe very strongly that when I do this, and when I separate myself from the judicial branch of government, that when those judges have a case that's prosecutorial, that they will adjudicate that case fairly. I'm not a lawyer. There are 3 branches of government. What I can do constitutionally to strengthen the judiciary is exactly what I'm going to do. Now, I am a big supporter of democracy. I believe in representative government. I believe that it is I believe that the voice of the people should be heard. But I don't believe in witch hunting. I don't believe in going after people, and I won't. But I do believe in justice and fairness. And I'm an advocate for justice.
I have a last question.
Hold on, Mr.
Gonglo. For justice and fairness.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead, ask your last question.
Yeah.
Mr. Brown, before the judges, the corrupt people got to be caught and taken to court for the justice system to work. How do you prevent corruption?
I have been very clear to you guys. I will appoint judges that are competent, judges that have character, that's their personal integrity, and that have compassion in their hearts for others. Then I will not interfere with them. They will be allowed to do their job. Now, what you, as a judge, what you get from money, you'll sell from money. But if you gain something from conviction, it'll be very hard to go against your conviction. And I am confident that if I appoint these judges, that they will do their jobs. That's what I'm telling you. That answers your question.
All right.
I would deal with corruption. I would deal with corruption at
Gonglo will come back to you.
Level.
All right.
Thank you. Let me go to Dr. Duke and then Mr. Sirleaf.
Okay, let me take you out. They say no country is an island. What's your foreign policy priorities?
Okay. So one of the things that I want to do is have improved relations with the United States of America. I believe that they are a blessed nation. On their money, their $100 bill, you read, "In God we trust." That means that somebody intentionally put that on their money, irrespective of what anybody wants to say. And you see that it's the dominant currency in the world today. It has been that way for many years. I believe that we are not utilizing our access with the United States of America, that this is a nation that has a lot to offer us. And I would be putting certain proposals on the table that I think would be mutually beneficial to the United States and us. I will also be interested in better relations with the European Union. I think that they have something to offer us, and they're our traditional partners as well. I would be especially interested in pursuing improved relationships with our with our African brothers, specifically Nigeria, because they're in our region. I'm saying to you that the policies that I am putting on the table are policies that will attract credible investors, credible governments. And my example of leadership is something that would interest them.
Thank you.
Let me, look, listening to you, you don't have to respond, but it seems that your idea of development is linked to outside actors, U.S., European Union, Nigeria. You haven't said anything about domestic wealth, building wealth domestically. You haven't talked about let me finish. You haven't talked about Manu River Union. You didn't talk about ECOWAS. All these structures that we have been floating around. Yeah, so, but you talk about the U.S. Okay, U.S. Yes, is the. By the way, the currency, the God we trust came on the currency in 1955. It was not there long before. It wasn't there before 1955 when they started this communist thing. That's when they put it there. But I'm just saying, okay, forget that. But how would you deal with the Liberian currency issue? Since you're an economist,
now let's get back. You said a couple of things here.
Yeah.
The last thing you heard me say was my interest in our African brothers, improved relationships, and I specifically mentioned Nigeria in the region. So I don't want it to appear that I'm not interested in improved relations with our African brothers, because I am. So I don't want any
no, you probably
I don't want it to be misconstrued. Is what I'm saying.
No, I don't think there's a misconstruction. I was asking you that you did not talk about, when you talk about the economy, you didn't talk about building.
I believe
local economy first, and then the sub-region.
I'm sorry. What? Can you repeat that?
Yeah.
Building wealth from the ground. That Liberia is wealthy, but we're not using our wealth.
But this is why this is the shift that you have to understand. I'm talking about, yes, Liberia is wealthy. Yes, there can be no disputing. But where everyone has missed it is that the biggest asset that we have is not our mineral wealth. The biggest asset that we have is our human capital. This is what makes my platform so different. I'm talking about building our human capital. When you hear me say that I'm going to take 50 youth and people from the counties and put them in a business development program, and then we and source financing for them, that is building our wealth, is building our human capacity, and then allowing them to come into every single sector in our economy. That's building our people. That's building the and you see it's very possible that you can build an economy, and the economy is buoyant, and the economy skyrockets, and the people are left behind. But with the proposal that I am putting forward, where I'm saying that we are going to build our human capacity, is that human capacity that is going to send our economy ablaze.
Okay, the first day you get into office, you call your Minister of Finance and he said, Mr. President, we're broke, completely broke.
Well, one thing I won't be doing, you want me to answer that?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll tell you one thing I won't be doing. I won't be calling you, Abdullah. Okay, so listen, I'm a guy from the private sector. You got to remember that. Yeah, I know what it takes to create wealth. And my government, by the way, I'm not interested in loans. I don't even have any interest in donor money. I'm calling business people. What you must understand, and what people don't understand, is this. And I guess this is why I come from the private sector. There are more people, more companies interested in finding places to invest in than there are people who are looking for investors. I won't be waiting until my first day of office to pick up the telephone to talk to my finance guy. The minute that I am elected, I will be talking to investors and saying, this is what I want. Because I'm talking about private sector funding, private sector capital. So my first day of office, we'll already have the ball rolling. But thank you.
Mr. Salif?
Mr. Brown.
Mr. Salif.
You're a special kind of candidate.
Absolutely, the one that's going to bring you back home.
I would. Why do you assume that I'm not home, or I don't go home, or But I appreciate that. Let me ask my question. I don't care what your platform is or how you want it to run. If you are running for office, you are in electoral politics, and electoral politics is adversarial. It does not have to be vitriolic, like, insulting people, but it is a competition. If you're truly in it to win, running for office, not friendship business. You want to win, okay? So, yeah, and the way you do that, you look at it. What is the political environment? What resources do I have? Or what team have I put in place? And what's the other one? Who are my opponents? And the who are my opponent question is, what's based on the opponent's strength, or whether you did opposition research or just perception, you build your strategy to defeat them so you can be in office to do all these good things. But if you're just so nice and say, I don't want to criticize, I don't even want to say I'm better or my strategy is better, I'm just different, then I wonder, why are you in this?
Okay, so what's your question?
My question, my question is, okay, so that is a commentary to the question. I want to pin you down as a candidate who has deep knowledge of the country and of the society, whose problems he wants office to be able to solve. So tell us,
so
what kind
what's your question?
Hold on now. If you let me, I will ask. I'm about to just I'm about to fire, then you slow me down. What kind of country is Liberia in your view? What kind of country do we have on our hands?
No, listen, we already know the answer
No,
to
we do
that,
not.
and I've
From
explained
your
to you. No, let me
perspective
finish that.
as a
Let me finish. Now
candidate.
you ask your question. Now you got to give me the opportunity to answer it, or you
Absolutely,
want to
yes.
ask your question and answer the question too. Then we should trade places, right? So
No,
let me
I
answer now. All right.
agree.
This is what you have to understand where you and I are at variance. We have different thinking processes. You are thinking conventionally, and you're trained to think conventionally, and I appreciate that. I'm thinking unconventionally. I'm thinking out of the box. So our thought processes are kind of different. Now, let me explain to you something. You heard of the Wright brothers, right? Wilbur and Oliver Wright, who created the airplane. You heard about them? So in 1903 in Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, you had two brothers. They got together. They said, look, we want to create a flying machine. Now, conventional wisdom said, look, if God wanted man to fly, God would have given man wings. They tried to do this thing and they failed several times. But today, of course, we see that they succeeded. We see that the airplane revolutionized the way that we travel today. When you think about me, that's how you have to start thinking. I'm bringing policies that are precedent setting. You haven't heard about it before. You don't quite understand.
That's
You
not
see,
true.
if you're saying, Mr. Brown, you're a nice guy, that means that you don't understand my policies. My policies are policies that are going to change the way that Liberia moves forward in decades and decades after. You understand me? I'm going to set a standard by which administrations after me will be judged. It's not about being Mr. Nice just because I say the politics of civility and neutrality. It's about setting a standard that other administrations will have to adjust to, administrations after me, so that when the Liberian people see somebody that comes and they're not going according to that standard, because that standard will be institutional, they will say, hey, we got to vote this guy out of office. This is what I'm doing. And so that is why it's so different from what you've heard before. But let me tell you something. When you go home tonight, as the highly intelligent man that you are, and you start to evaluate what I say, what I'm saying, and what I want to do, it's very possible that you invite me back to this show again so that we can continue this conversation. And I will accept that invitation.
Let me, Dennis, really quickly. I appreciate that. Okay, so I'll push back on this. What I'm wanting from you is exactly where you're giving commentary around, but you haven't said it. I haven't heard anything extraordinarily outside the box that is so novel, that is so.
But have you heard anybody say they will put you in an investment property?
Wait, you said
have you heard anybody say they will feed your people? Have you heard anybody say they will transform the economy through training 750 people? Have you heard anybody say that they will put 1,500 people in training in the public sector? Come on, man. You know how I see it? I see it that, Mr. Sirleaf, you're looking for an issue that's not there.
No, I'm not. I'm pushing a candidate who wants the presidency of my country as a citizen in participating in the public square. I'm putting you under the microscope so you can really dissect this thing for us, to convince the Liberian people who are listening. It's not about me personally. So, and I appreciate your civility. Don't take it personal. I just want to really,
not at all. Not at all.
Exactly.
I like you.
Okay,
like
so
you.
when I say
like
it's
you,
not, I say it's not new. Feeding people is not new. If you have a program to say certain number of young people from the county, and these are programmatic, right? I'll get 50 people here, this, and I'll enroll them in this program in this kind of capacity or job creation. That's not new.
So you're hearing the other candidates say the same thing, right?
I've heard a certain version of some of these, but it may not be exactly the way you've presented it. I'll concede that. So that's why I'm pushing you to say, okay, so this is not really new and extraordinary. How is it different? And I like that because contrast is what I push people for. When you come here, you are a candidate. How are you going to win? How are you better and different? What is that contrast? Show it. So you're showing that. I give it to you. I agree. But to present that as something I've never heard and something this is something that is novel and is thinking outside the box. That's where I push back on.
Okay, so at the end of the day, Mr. Sirleaf, I appreciate what you say. I have said to you that I'm only one option of many options, and I'm presenting my option to you, and I am respectful of your choice. What I will be doing for you is fighting for democracy, to protect this form of government, representative government, and the freedoms that a democracy allows for, and fighting for you to be able to make a choice for which platform and which candidate you want. And that's the best that I can do for you, Mr. Sirleaf.
Thank you. So
Thank
Mr.
you
Brown, and since you talk about the Bible a lot, I would say the Bible says money answers everything. Let's come to the money. You have a lot of things that you want to do. Where are you going to get the money from? How are you going to get the money?
Private sector funding. Private sector funding. I've told you clearly, there's a lot of money available in this world. People are looking, companies are looking for where to invest.
Let me say it this way. How do you grow the GDP of the country?
But this is what I'm telling you. It's private funding. That's how you're going to grow the GDP, by investors coming in. What I'm not interested in, I can tell you, I'm not very interested in aid money. That's donor money. I'm not really interested in that. I'm not really interested in borrowing. I am interested very much in private capital. And we have everything that it takes to attract private capital. So to answer your question, everything that I want to do, let me finish. Let's break down private capital attraction, right? Okay. So we talk agriculture, that attracts. We talk the service industry, that attracts. We talk manufacturing, that attracts. We talk climate, that attracts. We talk technology, that attracts. So there are the potential for us to attract private capital.
Let's stay with
agriculture. Something that you can't imagine.
Let's stay with agriculture.
Me where I'm going to get the money from. So I'm telling you where I'm going to get the money from. The money will be attracted to where I emphasize the areas that I emphasize in the economy.
So let's say agriculture. You're gonna bring people to make farm for us, or when you say attract private capital.
Fine. So let me explain to you something about agriculture that interests me. We only use 5% of our arable land.
Right.
That's all that we use. Notwithstanding, there are studies that have said that there will be scarcity of food in the world. So we are equipped already with knowing that food will be in demand. And we have 5% of our arable land that we've used. Now, one of the things that I want to make sure of from day one is that for every acre of land that we have, that we have the highest yield per acre on the planet for whatever we grow. So if we say we're growing oranges, we must have the highest yield on the planet for oranges. If we say we're growing pineapples, we must have the highest yield. And if it means that we have to go into vertical farming from day one, then we will do that. What I want from agriculture is to make sure that we harvest every quarter.
Right.
Because if we harvest every quarter, what that means that we are making money throughout the year, because we're harvesting every quarter.
So the
Look,
private
what you guys must
investors,
understand, and you keep telling me, where is the money? Where are you getting the money? And I keep answering the question. What you want me to say? I would pick up the money. I would take the money from my wallet, and that's where the money would come from.
No, I didn't understand.
I have told you already, Miss Dennis. I've told you that there.
No, I didn't understand it. I didn't understand it. So the private investors. No. The private investors. So there's someone will come from, let's say, America with their money to make farm in Liberia, and that's how you're going to. Or what does it mean when you say the private investor will come to Liberia? But
I just explained it to you, Dennis.
Okay.
I said agriculture.
No, but I think, okay, let's come back. Dennis, can I come in so we don't have this?
No, let me finish.
Brown.
Go ahead.
I was, maybe what I would tell you will help in the answer. Maybe he can integrate that. Mike, knowing government. You come into the government, you become president. It takes about 6-7 months for people to know where you're headed. People don't, if you talk about popularity with with investors and all of that, I think Ellen Wood, is very good example of that. But it took her almost a year or two to get any new investor on the ground to do anything. So you're gonna have a country that is broke. You don't have money, and you have all these plans to feed people, and you are trying to attract investors, but you have to start somewhere. Where do you start? That's a problem.
I already explained
people
this.
are not going to
Excuse
give
me.
you millions of dollars overnight because you became president.
Abdullah, I've already explained this thing. It's like you want me to just keep repeating my answer because you and we disagree now. I said I can do it. You said no, you can't do it. Then we just going back and forward. You understand?
So
I'm not gonna change from what I said. You can say all 5 of y'all can jump on me. It won't change anything. I will give you my answer.
Nobody will jump
and that
on
is
you.
when I stand by what I say. And look, let me explain something.
I got it.
Okay, that's good.
Let's move on. What would Alan Brown cabinet look like?
What you said, Dennis? Sorry, I missed it.
Yeah, I said, what would an Alan Brown cabinet look like?
It will be a mixture of competence, character, and integrity, and compassion. That's what my cabinet will look like.
Thank you. At this time, we are deep into this time, so we'll take one more round, one question each from you, and then we'll be taking questions or comments from our viewers. Mr. Gonglo, one question, please.
Mr. Brown, I will be hearing again.
I hear you clearly. Thank you.
Okay, great. So just quick question. You are one of your competitors, your friends, I would say, Councillor Tiawanse Gonglo, has argued that the respect for the rule of law is the foundation of any nation or in a society if you're going to make any progress. Whether you have the best economic policy or economic model or agriculture program, if there is no respect for rule of law, if there is chaos in the country, that is not going to work. What do you say?
I agree with him 100%. And yes, Tiwan is one of my lawyers, and we are friends. That's very true. I agree with him.
Mr. Salif, one question. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are just joining us, please, and you want to be a part, we have 10 minutes for callers. Please call quickly, 1 minute, half minute each to ask your question, and then we're going to be drawing down the curtains. Mr. Salif.
Mr. Brown, resources, money to run campaign. Do you care to talk to us about? Do you have money to run the campaign? Are you a wealthy man? Where are you raising funds from? And what kind of team, what kind of campaign team do you have? Who's running? Who's campaign manager? All those things. Can you talk about your process?
Well, my campaign manager is a man by the name of Jeremiah Saki. If you want me to introduce you to him, I'll be very open to doing that. And I will restrict him from telling you much about our strategy, and for obvious reasons. But that's a very good, Mr. Salif, that was a very good try. That's your best try so far. Thank you. I'm not going to reveal my strategy to you. You know that. I already told you.
Dr. Dukley.
Okay.
Yeah. I have so many questions though, but definitely, what do you think about?
You will invite me again.
About the
you will invite me again?
No. The double currency issue. Because you're an economist, the U.S. dollar and the Liberian dollar.
I'm not an economist. I'm a businessman. But I will answer it this way. Listen to me. When it comes to the double currency issue, I will have to set up a special commission of people who are informed on this matter, and they will come up with proposals as to what's the best way. And we will be looking at our international partners, and this is one time that will be very, very, we will look very closely to ECOWAS to see what they're doing in the region, so that we come up with a policy that is an informed policy and that's in the interest of the Liberian people.
Thank you. Let me take a few questions from our audience here. The first one from Keita. He said, Mr. Brown, resources are scarce, but with unlimited wants and needs. But we have unlimited wants and needs. How will you manage the limited resources to meet your plan in 6 years?
Well, I don't believe that the resources will be limited. You're only looking at the available resources. I'm not looking at it that way. When we have a situation where credible investors know that the president means business, I can assure you that there will be more money available. What it comes down to is demonstrating that the leader means business. And when investors see that, when investors know that, listen, if I bring $1 million or if I bring $100 million into this country, if there's a case that's prosecutorial, it'll be adjudicated fairly. That's what investors want to know. When they know that, they start pouring in. But that is not the only issue. And this is what I keep trying to explain to you. The issue is not just about the money coming in and the economy rising, and we have a buoyant economy. The issue is to make sure that our Liberian people are prepared for the new opportunities to which they will be availed. What I do not want to happen is for the economy to skyrocket and our people skydive. That would be a crime, I would say, almost, because it would be a tragedy. I want to make sure that when the economy is buoyant, that our people, the Liberian people, whether they're in Liberia, for those of you who are in the diaspora, I want to make sure that Liberians rise with the economic rise. That is important for the new Liberia. Thank you.
Thank you. Sam Wallace is saying, what are the top 3 challenges Liberians you have talked to across the country say they are facing?
Oh, man. I can answer that one so easily. 1, 2, 3. They're broke. They're hungry. That's the big thing. Everywhere you go, Times are hard. Mr. Brown, help me. I can't afford tuition. I mean, you know, when you go to, when you come into Liberia, as a matter of fact, when you go into certain areas, nobody even has to tell you what the situation looks like. All you got to do is just drive in there and you already know. Thank you.
Keita also say, how would the public financial management of your government look like?
I already answered the question before. I told you that the first thing I'm bringing in is that I will be looking at the judiciary, making sure that I have competent judges, they have character, they have compassion, and that's what my government is going to look like. Look, I'm not going to micromanage people when I put them in. That's something I wanted to bring up. I'm not going to micromanage people. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to make sure that before you get there for that particular area, that you're competent, that you have integrity, and that you have compassion in your heart. And I'm telling you that when we build our people will build the Liberian country. That's what I'm telling you.
Mr. Brown, how do you plan to empower the Liberian people given the present state of poverty? That's from Jimmy Eastman.
That's a very, very good question. I'm happy for that question. I've said it already. The first thing you have to do is you have to feed the people. When you feed the people, they will start to listen to you because there has to be a restoration of confidence in government. People, and that restoration of confidence is going to come when you have a leader that's serious about the business of governance. Now, when you have that, then you start talking about the empowerment. And I mentioned what I was going to do in the economy. I also mentioned what I was going to do in the public sector. And I stand by what I say. That's exactly what I'm going to do.
J. Victor Nawe say feeding the people sounds like a recipe to perpetuate dependency.
Yeah, that and people have said that you're not going to feed the people forever. It's just during the crisis. Once the economy catches up, then of course you're not going to feed the people. Okay, to the extent that you feed them when there's a crisis. But during a time of crisis, you have to respond to the crisis. And look, this is nothing that I'm doing that we haven't seen before in a democracy. Remember now, the United States of America, when their financial system looked like it was collapsing, what did they do? They came and they addressed the issues.
So how long are you going to feed the people?
As long as I need to feed the people. That's an obvious question.
Thank you. Mr. Brown, who is your all-time favorite Liberian president and why?
I don't have one.
Why?
Because the vast majority of our people are hungry. And again, I want to be specific and clear with you. I'm not really going down the road of criticizing previous administrations.
I talk about favorite.
Let me be clear with you. You know, I'm not here for that. I'm here to talk about my platform and how I plan to transform Liberia. So I've answered your question. I don't have one.
Which of the president now your policy will be kind of a little closer to?
You know, you can go and answer that question because a lot of my policies I haven't even explained. Some of them I'm waiting for the debates when and this is what the other thing is that the presidential debates, I plan to be a participant. There are things that I'm withholding here and now, that when the presidential debates start, those are things that I'm going to reveal. I know Abdullah will love that. That's his game right there.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's go around the room now to my fellow panelists if they have any last comment or question. I don't have any calls, so we can draw down the curtains. Let's start with Mr. Gonglo. Mr. Gonglo, your last question.
Yeah, Mr. Brown. I think this. I would say, on the issue of corruption. Are you hearing me?
Very clearly.
Yeah. On the issue of corruption, I would like to respectfully submit to you, given the history of corruption in government in Liberia and the whole challenge we have. I know you're talking about economic development, building the economy, building up the country, but if corruption is not put first and foremost as the priority of any government, you're going to not succeed, because corruption is a very powerful enemy of any country. It's a very powerful enemy in a society, and it's systemic in Liberia. It has become like a culture, because for generations people have allowed corruption to thrive in public service. So it's a Herculean task, and I hear you talk all these beautiful things, but I don't hear you talking much more about fighting corruption with all the energy. I don't know if you have any comment
So
on
let
that.
me be clear, and let me be clear with you on that. And Mr. Gonglo, I'm appreciative of your concerns about corruption. You asked me earlier a statement with respect to Tawan, who's a friend of mine and one of my lawyers, and I said I agree. With his position, but you must understand, and you have said it already. You said that it's systemic. So you solve a systemic problem by dealing with the system. So this is how I'm going to deal with the system. I'm going to appoint the right judges, competent judges, judges that have integrity, judges that have compassion. Then I'm not going to interfere with them, because interfering with them is already a sign of corruption. That means I'm compromising them. I'm going to lead by example. I'm going to allow the judiciary to do its job. And what you will find is that I will do everything that is constitutionally appropriate as an executive, as the president in the executive branch, to strengthen the judiciary. And when I do that, that is how I will be fighting corruption. And I'm not just fighting corruption just for one administration. The idea is to make sure that these people that I'm appointing, that they set a standard for the future. Because my government, I want us to be like what the gold standard is. And I want us to be the standard that other governments will look at and they will say, hey, you know something? These guys got it right. I want that standard to be there so that when the Liberian people have a something to compare, to say how it should be, that they look and say, hey, you know something? This president did it right. So when you talk about my fight against corruption, I'm very, very interested in dealing with it. So I don't want you to make it appear like I don't want to deal with corruption. Not only have I told you that I want to deal with corruption, I've been specific about how I'm going to deal with corruption. The only thing that I said that you may not like is that I'm not going to witch hunt. And no matter how many times you bring this corruption question up, it's not going to change that. You're going to always hear me tell you, I will appoint competent judges. I will appoint judges who have character and integrity. And I will appoint judges who have compassion. And let me tell you something. This is what I believe the best way forward with respect to our judiciary and dealing with corruption. Thank you.
Thank you. If you notice, President Weah has been heralding his accomplishment, paying WIAC fees, free tuition, hospitals, rural connectivity, rural housing, and electricity. Do you agree, or you have any alternative? Let's say take WIAC fees for instance.
Okay, look, as a rule, as a rule, when I don't have something good to say about a particular individual, I say nothing at all as a general rule. I don't believe that I have to tear down anybody to
No,
rise.
don't tear down. If
And
you
let me
agree with the
finish. Let me,
YFP,
hey,
no,
hang
hold on,
on. Hang
Mr. Brown.
on. May I answer the
No.
question?
Hold on.
Y'all want to ask the question, then y'all want to answer the question too.
No, I'm
Hey
not answering.
man, let me
I'm
answer.
saying
Can I
if
answer
you
the
agree with
question?
this, I don't want
Can
you
I
to
answer the
criticize.
question, Dennis?
Go ahead.
You asked the question now.
No, but I
Now
see where
how
you're
you
going
want
with
to do
it.
it
So I
now?
just want to interject. But go ahead.
Okay, so I was saying as a rule and just a principle. If I don't have something good to say about someone, I say nothing at all. One of the traits that we have in this nation that I believe we must deal with, that I must deal with, is this inherent proclivity to tear each other down as opposed to building each other up. I feel that it's one of the most terrible traits that we have as a people. Part of what you see me doing is setting an example of what it takes to build.
Mr.
You
Brian, if you
cannot
agree
build.
with this, just say it.
You're
But
either
I know
gonna
what
let me land,
no.
or then
I know where
you
you're
answer
going.
the question for yourself.
All right.
So
I
which
can
one
answer.
is it gonna be? Or Dennis, which one is it gonna be? You're gonna answer the question and you answer it.
Do you agree with these accomplishments? If then you
Listen
can
to
praise
me
him.
now. Listen to me.
I don't want you to criticize him if you don't have to. If you
Yeah,
have to
but listen
praise
to
him
me
for
now.
free
You
tuition,
either
do
give
so.
me a chance to answer the question, or you will not give me a chance. Which one you want to do is why I'm asking you.
No, but the direction you are going, I know where you're going, so I'm trying to read
Well,
that. Right.
okay, then answer the question for me then. Let me sit down and wait.
All right, Dr. Douglas, go ahead. Your question.
Where do you put? You talk about not tearing each other down. That's what we've done so far. And that brings the question to another social issue: national reconciliation. Where do you put that? Where do you start?
It starts with and I think this is probably one of the best questions that I've been asked. National reconciliation starts with leadership. It comes down to the example that a leader sets. There must be a restoration of confidence in the leaders of a country like Liberia, that we are here at the behest of our people, beholding to our people, on behalf of our people, to seek the noble interests of our people. If you want to reconcile a people, they must trust you. Your A must be your A, your Z must be your Z. You must be consistent. They must, and it does not mean that you will not disagree, but you respect one another. Because when you have that respect, it opens the door for reconciliation. There will always be disagreements. But when you make it personal and you start to attack each other, then you move from the substance of the matter into another area. And I believe that I am the candidate, the type of president that can bring about genuine reconciliation in Liberia.
Mr. Salif, your final question.
So, Mr. Brown, if these ideas that you have are the best so far in the race, like extraordinary extraordinarily inspirational message and candidate. Why aren't you gaining traction? Why? I mean,
you're a political strategist, and you're a person of you're a political scientist, right?
I'm not a political scientist. I
Oh, I
studied
thought
political
that's what you
science.
said.
I
But
said
this is what you must
social
understand.
scientist.
I got a question. The question should be asked to you. The question is this.
I'm not a
You've
candidate.
heard, listen to me. You've heard what I said, right?
Mr.
You've
Brown,
heard what I said, right? Now, the
didn't.
question should be asked.
What
I said, is it something that interests you?
Well, respect, sir. I didn't quite finish my question. I'm dressing up the premise. I was almost there. Each time you interrupt me like that.
Sorry.
So
I'm gonna have to walk because my phone is dying, so I gotta walk a little.
I understand. And you're gonna have to get used to this because you're running for high office in our country where citizens
you're entitled to it, and I appreciate it.
Absolutely. We'll push you and we'll push back. So,
and you should.
And if these ideas are so novel, they're so out of the box, extraordinarily, it's gone.
Yeah, go ahead.
They're so transformational. Why is he, Mr. Brown? Why, if you're hearing me, why aren't you gaining traction? You should be a leading candidate. You should be.
Okay, so let me answer your question.
Okay.
Mr. Salif, number one, the election is not over yet. So the possibility of gaining traction is always there. An election can change in 72 hours, in 48 hours, in 24 hours. That's number one. Let me answer, Omer. The next thing that you have to understand is this. I'm an option among many options. You just hearing about me. When did you hear about me? What, a week ago? A day ago? You understand? So you're just hearing about me.
That's
even Abdullah, now you see the thing. The problem I'm having with you guys is that you ask the question, then you won't answer the question. Let me answer. You ask the question, give me a chance. Abdullah, who is a friend of mine, I've known Abdullah for over 10 years. Abdullah is just for the first time hearing my platform. And you guys are the guys that are politically astute. You guys are current in this in the political conversation. But you're just hearing about me. So to answer your question, if you guys are just hearing about me, maybe that's some of the issues right there. But this is what I want to tell you, and make no mistake about it. When it comes to election day, Mr. Salif, I'm going to be a formidable force on that day. Make no mistake about it.
On election day? Isn't
that the day that we vote?
Well, you don't practice on the day of the game.
Man. You're not listening to me again.
I am listening. I am a very keen listener.
You're not listening. You're not listening because what I'm telling you, you know what the issue is? The issue is because you disagree with me now. You want to convince me of something that you cannot convince me on. I am telling you that I will be a formidable candidate on the day of election. Then you telling me, say you coming with your own rejoinder.
Yeah,
it will not change what I tell you.
Because elections are run in a certain way, campaigns are run in a certain way, Mr. Brown.
Oh man. Excuse me. I have told you already that I am unconventional in my approach. Didn't I tell you that? And I am telling you categorically that on election day, which is the day that you're supposed to be formidable, by the way, I will be formidable. Okay. That's my conviction. And you can come to me with all your different political philosophies and whatnot. It's not going to change that. Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Tough Talking Thursday. Our guest, Mr. Alan Brown, is presidential candidate for the Liberia Restoration Movement. And as you can tell, it's tough talking and it's tough. And Mr. Brown is in the hot seat. Join us this Sunday on the new day with AJA 2023 National Convention, September 14 to 17. The host, Priscilla Inato, will be here with AJA President Joe Mason and Secretary Akai Gladden. You don't want to miss the new day. It's every Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern. Mr. Brown, my last question to you is, We say empty bag can never stand. I don't know. You have a favorite Liberian proverb? We've been dealing with this rice issue all our life, right? The 1979 rice riot, and still rice. Specifically, how do you plan to alleviate this whole rice issue or food so that the country become full sufficient?
When it comes to agriculture, my policies are more directed towards the global economy, because the global economy is an inexhaustible economy. And I believe that when we focus on the global economy, we will resolve the issues with our local economy. So my approach to whether it's rice or whether it's coffee or cocoa or whatever it is for exports for the global market. And when and as a byproduct of that, we will be self-sufficient, because we'll be exporting far more than we need. We'll have a surplus.
Exporting what?
Excuse me?
Exporting what?
Exporting whatever it is that we're going to be growing.
And what is it?
Well, that depends on what our advisors tell us. I'm not going to get up here and tell you that, oh, we're going to grow oranges, or we're going to grow pineapples, or we're going to grow coffee. No, that's not how it works. Okay. You have a team together that will sit down and say, this is where the trade surplus is. This is where the demand is. This is where we should do X. This is where we should do Y. And we'll be talking to our foreign partners. This is what they need. And they're going to determine to us, well, this is what you need to grow. We will not just jump out there and start growing because we got the ability to grow. Oh, no, that's not how it works. We'll be looking for how to optimize our agriculture policies and what we grow.
Thank you. What is your favorite Liberian proverb? Your favorite?
No, you won't know that one there because it may be insulting to others. So I can't say that, please.
All right. Dr. Duke, you're closing.
Well, closing, I just want to thank Alan for being brave enough to jump into this race. Liberia is at a very critical time, and we need all the ideas, energies, and everything we can pull together to make it move. So I wish him well. We've known each other a very long time, and I would say Godspeed.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Doc.
Keep forward.
Thank you. They are asking for your website.
Yes, I will give it. We had an issue which you asked me about. My website got hacked into. So we are redoing it, and it'll be available, but I would say by Wednesday.
Thank you.
Now you want to ask me who hacked into it, right?
No, we don't want to. I don't.
Look at it. I can tell you now from the way Salif laughing and grinning, I can see that he already got some. He has an opinion, yeah. And then I see Abdullah with that sly smile, that slick smile there. So I know that you guys already have some kind of opinion on it. But after Wednesday, our website will be back up because it has to come now with all kind of security measures.
Thank you.
The one thing I like to say is that I'd like to come back one day. I mean, I enjoyed the conversation. And Salif, especially to you, I just want you to look out, watch out for people who will start to copy what I say. But thank you.
I'll be looking out.
Mr. Salif, you're closing.
Yeah, my closing. You made me. You always try to derail my train of thoughts, which is hard to do. There are many reasons why people run for office. People run for office not to win. Some run for office to win. Some run for office to establish their name so that their name recognition is there for them to try another season. I don't, for what your reason is, your purpose is, Mr. Brown, I want to thank you, join others for doing that. These are the kinds of things that we should be doing in a democracy. in any civilized society. You want to have as many ideas on board as possible, as many personalities, people with different perspectives. Like you said, sometimes a candidate will come for whatever reason. They're not formidable. They don't have the traction. They may or may not win, but the idea, some kind of idea, something will stick and will better the society. So I hope that is the case here. So what I will close with, I will say, if your team is listening, you and your strategists, your advisors, elections are convention. There are conventions around elections. Those conventions haven't changed yet. In 100 years, there's specific ways people win elections, and if you don't tread some of those paths, I'm afraid to tell you here now that it's difficult to see how I can see you be the next president in January 2024. But I wish you all the best. And honestly, I've enjoyed the conversation. It's been a pleasure meeting you and engaging in these deliberations.
Thank you, and likewise.
And Mr. Brown, I'll give you the last word. In your closing, I want you to draw a sharp contrast between you and the people who are you competing for this job. Go ahead, sir. Your closing comment.
I've been very clear about what I stand for. If you vote for vote number 3, Allen Brown and Brown-Weah, you're voting for godly leadership. You're voting to assume your inheritance. You're voting for your empowerment. You're voting for your future of your children and your grandchildren to come. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Brown, for the time. We will definitely want to have you back. And
I'm very predisposed to coming back.
Thank you. And thank you, Dr. Dude. Thank you, Ahmed, and also Mr. Kalabo Gonglo. I want to thank our viewers, those who commented, and even those who will watch later. Always focus on Liberia, where we educate, we elevate, and promote all things Liberia. On this note, we close with our song that says, whether you are voting for number 3, number 4, number 5, number 20, we are all Liberians. Good night, and God bless you.
Thank
We
you.
are Liberians. Liberia is our home.